It's All right, we are now live on YouTube. Thank you very much for coming this evening and welcome. Okay.
Divine Creator, we ask that the light of highest awareness fill the minds and hearts of those who are open to your light. We ask that they be assisted and strengthened in their resolve to achieve peace using peaceful means. May their minds, their hearts, and their actions reflect the divine will to good for all. Comfort, strengthen, and support those who are in a difficult situation in their mind, body, or spirit. Bring confidence to them that your divine hand is at work in their life. Amen.
Well, again, greetings and welcome. My name is Reverend Mary Huber. I'm pastor of CCWH, which stands for the Community Chapel of Holistic Healing. We are a non-denominational, nonprofit spiritual fellowship started by Rev Michelle Lusson in 1977. She's a mystic and channel for the multidimensional consciousness. She had an apparition of Swami Sivananda very early on when he asked her to start this organization and place it here in the Washington, D.C. area, which we are currently at. We are here to aid in personal and global spiritual transformation and to be a light for the nation's capital. We do have chapel services twice a month. It's on our website. You might find it there under our calendar to find the exact dates. We have them. They're not quite every 2 weeks, but you will find that there, and you will find the pull down menu, and I hope you will enjoy some of the other things that we have on our website. So before we start, we always begin all of our programs with the recitation of our faith, hope, and charity affirmations, which Michelle had always called the 3 healers because they balance all the systems in our body. I'll recite them for you. The faith affirmation: I believe in the spiritual existence of myself as a perfect image of the divine creator. In this reflection that is my physical embodiment, I have faith in the supreme guidance of my soul for my balance, my needs, and my opportunities. Outside of myself, there are also perfect images, and nothing can delude my thinking otherwise. The hope affirmation: acknowledging my faith in the omnipresence of my divinity, I hope for realization, awareness, and acknowledgement of the existence of the great I am within myself. The charity affirmation: in understanding faith, in knowing hope, I pledge my actions, my desires, and my thoughts to the performances of myself on the physical planes of the earth, to honor, to love, and to enlighten all that is a reflection of the divine outside myself, so that my perfection is imaged back to my Creator. So help me God. Well, this evening, the title is Domel color, and I chose that because for several reasons, and one was I would like to talk about color. We're going to have to talk a little bit about sound because they are related. And the person with whom I am the most familiar in her color work is, of course, our founder's identical twin sister, Dorothee Lusson, Mella, known to her friends as Dottie. And Dottie is an artist who started out as a nurse. She graduated but did not go through to take her boards to become a registered nurse because she met and married a Navy physician. and went with him on his tours. His assignment to Rome opened an opportunity for her to study art there. She was well known as a local artist in Washington, D.C., and co-founded an art gallery in Georgetown. Her artist/business name was a combination of her first and last name, Domel. Her research, and by the way, you see any of her paintings, the signature on the painting will be Domel. Her research into all aspects of color and her native intuitive ability led her to create a test using 20 colors, which identifies personal traits and therefore gave her information for her clients. She counseled on image and lifestyle changes for them through this test. She was also consulted by professionals in politics, business, and medicine to help their fields of interest to thrive. Her art style changed when she moved to Albuquerque and very often reflected the culture there. Now, Dottie always began by saying about her color work, she would start going back in history and say, well, color has been around a very long time, and as far as how people have been using it. So I'm going to start with modern science likes to talk about the history of using light and color as going back to 2000 BC. However, if you have heard Michelle's channelings yourself, or I now invite you to tune into our program on September 9th and hear the level of divine intelligence that did exist on the planet 60,000 years ago, and judge for yourself. So, but we will stick with the current science and its evidence of the historical evidence that's known to everybody. Many who have come through CCWH have had past life readings and were involved in those ancient cultures in Greece, Egypt, China, and India, where these were used as medicines of the time. The knowledge of color was very active in the ancient cultures. Then there seemed to be a gap in time in the understanding, but that's, I'm saying seeming, because I'm not, we're not, I guess, privileged to know some of those gaps and what actually happened. But of course, artists throughout time and the centuries kept the knowledge of color alive through their work. So that never really died out. And it was important that people remember that it's a long-standing history of the world using color. Now, I'll go back to the 19th century. Dottie did her research, so I went back and she did reference a number of these people when she would explain about her background in color. Edward D. Babbitt was probably, is still considered quite a pioneer in the field. And he was born in 1828. He did graduate from a Cincinnati medical school, so he was a physician. And he developed schools in chromotherapy, which is, of course, the use of color in his work, as working with patients. And he thought that this was important, and he was the one who developed the use of light that would pass through different color lenses and focus it on the person's body to help them. But Dottie always was, the artist she referred to was always Kandinsky. He was I believe, Russian background, and had a very vastly different combination of colors and geometric forms that he was using in his time. He was way ahead of his time. He was born around 1870, and he was a very spiritual man. He was actually in a group influenced by Madame Blavatsky. And I think a lot of his understanding came from that. And I don't know whether he saw it, but he could put color and musical notes together back then. And of course, Madame Blavatsky, as she was called, was born in Ukraine and was of Russian royalty descent. And she was an extraordinarily controversial figure in her time, who traveled the world, established the Theosophical movement, and was famous for her book, The Secret Doctrine. Now, she was a trance medium channel for a number of the masters. So her views of life and how she traveled and bringing back the understanding of the Hindu and the Buddhist traditions. She's actually helped spread those throughout the world way back there in the beginning of this movement toward more spirituality being in daily lives. Now, the next person was interesting because that I thought he was interesting. Dottie never talked about him. His name was Pancoast. Dr. Pancoast was a homeopathic physician. I believe he was out of Philadelphia, and his time frame was he was born in 1823. So we're talking way back in the 19th century. His color was based on the Kabbalah, and he used his entire practice based on color as he perceived it through that system. But of course, Max Luscher, the Luscher color test, he was a Swiss psychotherapist who had developed a test in color. And Dottie, of course, was very interested in that because she was developing her own test. But I looked at his from what he had produced, and the colors were very limited and they were very mixed. And to me, they looked very muddied. They didn't look like nice, clean colors. You were expected to pick the best one. And I thought, boy, I didn't like any of them. I don't know how his patients did. But anyway, he was also very controversial, and not all the psychotherapists liked what he was doing. But again, these people were way ahead of their time in looking at this field. And Faber Biren was probably the one that Dottie spoke the most of, but I didn't know a lot about him until recently when I looked him up finally. His history is beautifully laid out by the University of Chicago. Somebody took it upon themselves to write a wonderful recounting of his life and what he did. He was a brilliant man. He had no formal education in color. He went out, instead of going to the university, which he was a brilliant man, he was very eligible for. He didn't like that. He wanted to study color. Nobody was teaching color. So he went out and experimented himself. And he took color to heart, and he surrounded himself, and he saw how he felt and what was going on in his body. And he did all of his own research. Well, he became so great at that and so accurate that he said, I'm putting color to work. And he went out and he did managed color in factories and other places that were having a lot of accidents in. And he was making sure that people understood that the safety was at risk here and for the people who were working there. And I think he was at DuPont when he did that. And he was so good that even today we have the red that it signifies the call, where you call for the fire, and the yellows that are in different places for safety. We still use those because the Army liked everything he did and adopted it. So he was a pretty influential guy. And actually, even Walt Disney hired him, and he worked as a color consultant when Disney did the work with Bambi and Fantasia and Pinocchio. So he really got around, and Dottie was very influenced by him. But of course, everybody built on what the person before them did, which we need to do in the world if the world progresses, because you take the wonderful work that somebody else does, you look at it and you add to it. You use your own creative insights into what you want to do with that field, and you make a nice new contribution to the world. And everybody did that along the way. And Dottie came along, and she did a little bit of everybody's work and went beyond it. So that was important because her book, The Language of Color, has been imprinted in like 42 different countries. It's been all over the world. It's been out there since 88. Her color test, however, she developed in 1972. She had been using that for a long time, and she could read people really well. But she liked to refer and say, gee, the ancients used it. It was the Romans with their red. The predominant color for them was red, and a lot of red was in the Chinese culture. And the blue-green was with the Greeks, and the royalty had the exclusive use of the color purple. And of course, gold was in Egypt. And when Dottie went out, she also did a lot of work with businesses and on that. And I know she color coded a factory for safety. She did some extra work that Biren had not done. She would do physicians' offices, and she would help them know what kind of people belong in this room so that you can get the best results for this particular condition. She did that to a couple of physicians in Albuquerque that I'm aware of. And of course, she did a number of other help personally for people. She always felt that colors were a personal resource from the universe. Her color classes brought people of all kinds of backgrounds together, because she had us all in one room. She had us mixing colors. She had us doing a color wheel. She had us the whole 9 yards, as though we were her artist, but she was actually teaching us about color. She also always said that you can tell a lot about the future when you look at the predominant colors that are being used that are being promoted by businesses, that the cars are being painted, and that people are now promoting for the color schemes for wardrobes. She says you can tell the future coming in. You can tell the now and how they are feeling about the now. And you can also see it's going to be there in the future because it's starting up. That's why when I was told to paint my condo, all these shades of gray and like gray, it was gray and beige and gray. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is because people just don't want any stimulation today. They don't want any bright colors in their room. So I was trying to do a little of Dottie then when I was thinking about the people in the world, and they just were probably up to here with everything, and they just needed some rest. So they needed to be less stimulated. But there is a language in color, and Dottie knew it and developed it, and was really good at it. And color, as she said, is individualized, pure light. And we are talking about light, the universal energy, the expression of God through which all things are made. And the portion of the light that is a particular color is the wavelength and frequency that it employs. Color, wavelength, and frequency. Spoke with my son, the astrophysicist. I keep asking him basically the same questions, and he keeps patiently explaining. Basically, wavelength and frequency are relatable because you can translate them one into the other. The visible band of the light spectrum that we see is a very short compared to everything that exists. And the measurement is in nanometers, and it's 1 nanometer is 1 billionth of a meter. And the one end of the spectrum, of course, as you know, is red, and the other one violet. Beyond the red is infrared, radar, TV, radio waves, AC circuits. And beyond the violet are the ultraviolet, the X-rays, the gamma rays, and beyond. Of course, this is a continuum, and we don't know from both ends of those spectrum what's really beyond that, because we haven't gone there yet. So, by the way, also, my son pointed out, and I thought, I think I need to mention this. The science says that the medium in which light waves travel is known as luminescent ether. And the ether is spelled AETHER, luminiferous, yes. This was explained by Einstein in 1905. So we spiritually refer to the elements as earth, air, fire, water, and ether. And the ether is actually the AETHER, not the other one, which is the anesthetic. we use to put you out in for surgery. But we use these in our spiritual work and meditations and energy work. And it's important to know that this is a fact that we need to embrace because it is there. Now, sound is almost never described by wavelength. Now, the wavelength, the waves that go over the bands, that waves are measured from peak of the wave to the next peak of the wave. And it's an auditory factor. We can't see it. Now, auditory things, these wavelengths change very easily as they're going through the air, the vibrations. And the frequency in the wave is divided by the wavelength, and that's the wave speed. How fast it's going is divided by the length of the wave, and that's how we get frequency. So the ultrasound is above the range of human hearing, and infrasound, like in the whales, is below the human ear sound. And of course, the human being is composed of vibrating energy and many frequencies. Now, Dottie devoted her life to color and understanding it. She went inside of it and could read it correctly. Therefore, she could read individuals correctly, and by the answers that she developed with her test. Anybody can become a color expert because we are made of light vibrations and they flow in us and around us, through us continually. This is more evident when we have a dimensional perspective on how things are built in the universe. The other planes or dimensions on which we exist simultaneously are of differing frequencies. Each plane in our makeup has a particular emanation of frequencies which are seen as color. You know that the Webb telescope, the new telescope, has picked up colors from the universe that are not known here on Earth. This is just like the beginning, the opening door for understanding that vibration, frequency that's out there in its highest form has a color scheme all on its own, in its own vibratory patterns. And they are so much better and higher and so many more colors that we can't describe them here because our eyes wouldn't be able to pick them up and we couldn't describe them because they don't relate to the colors that we already know. So this is a door opening. Now, color is a universal substance, and it is the fabric of the universe because it's color, it's light. This is just parts of the light spectrum. And where there is color, there is sound, and where there is sound, there is color. And if I didn't know it before, Spirit reminded, was very clear, came right through and says, remember that. Sounds are longer waves and color is much shorter. Now, many musicians, as I've said before in many of my talks, have seen color when they play notes on their piano. Beethoven was one that was very famous for being able to do that. And maybe that's how he was able to compose, I don't know. But it takes an individual who has developed exquisite sensitivity to higher frequencies to experience these things. So not everybody has them by individual notes. Sometimes they have to be chords before they see it. And very often, the musicians who have seen the chords that they're striking, not only in color, but they see it in form. They form beautiful pictures, whether it's a scenery picture or if it's whether a beautiful building or a cathedral. These have appeared above them when they were working. So there are many aspects of the color and sound that the average person isn't able to perceive today. This is a marvelous new world that is coming up because I believe that with our new talent that humans have, we're going to get there and eventually, and we're going to have these marvelous perceptions. Of course, color and sound are the building materials that the universe uses, and they are avenues of communication from those who are existing on those higher dimensions. This is how they communicate with us. Spirit can and does use these energy pathways. And in turn, we can use those energy pathways as well. We just have to care to tune in to this and be aware and to be focused on it, to be more dedicated in our pursuit of it if we really want to do this. The esoteric and spiritual teachers have known for ages that our body is programmable by language, words, and thought. This has been scientifically proven and explained. Of course, the frequency has to be correct in order for it to come out well. The individual person must work on the inner processes and maturity in order to establish conscious communication, which, again, our community is very aware of. The higher developed an individual's consciousness is, the less need there is to develop or use any type of device. Because devices are going to come because science is in pursuit now of in these two fields. Now, the Russian scientists, who always seem to me, when I hear who's doing the work first, the Russian scientists seem to get out there a bit ahead of everybody else. And they found out that DNA can cause disturbing patterns in a vacuum under certain conditions when working with sound, thus producing magnetized wormholes. And wormholes here are the little microscopic equivalents to the big, Einstein-Rosen bridges in the vicinity of the black holes that are left by burned out stars. Interesting. Of course, if you know as above, so below, I guess that's a stunning discovery for the sciences, but it's like, well, yeah, that would fit from everybody else who is studying metaphysics. They know this. This is true as above, so below. And these tunnel connections between entirely different areas in the universe, they figure now through this device that they have looked at and found these things to happen, that through the information can be transmitted outside of space and time. So the DNA attracts, they feel it attracts these bits of information and passes them into our consciousness. This is how science is looking at it right now. And this, of course, it's not called anything spiritual. It's called hypercommunication. And they said hypercommunication is most effective in the state of relaxation. And we can go into a little bit more about hypercommunication is when things happen spontaneously, we get something we haven't expected. It's called intuition, which, again, our community is quite aware of, and one which we are developing daily. We are pursuing that very much in our daily lives to become closer, because intuition, my understanding is when you can contact the mind of God within you, you will become intuitive. And the closer you become to God, the more clear you will be in the messages that you receive. So while science calls them hypercommunication, we call it divine intuition and inspiration. So they also have found that other patterns exist even after the stimulus is taken away, and it still exists. They're able to see these things now so that they are documenting what ancient wisdom has always been able to tell us. And this was from a book that was apparently only published in German to this point. And the title was Networked Intelligence. Now, in Stanford University is doing a lot of research on acoustic engineering, and they're coming up with some stunning new ways to look at how to help people using sound waves, and they're creating electrical signals and can hear that. You put a band on, they can hear the tone of the brain, and it's very good at predicting very early on seizures. Other electrical engineering are making ultrasound devices in tiny chips that are able to monitor body functions that we couldn't do before. Sound is being used in a much bigger way, apparently, than anything that I can find that was being done with color in the same dimensional kind of way, in a bigger way. But it's coming in, and it's coming in from people who are still looking at machinery and some devices that will measure things. Horstati was very attuned to color, and it spoke to her. She understood the language of the colors and used them to help others with this skill. And she became, I think, more psychic and more intuitive the more she tuned into the colors and used the colors in her daily life to help people. She was somebody who could just get into the color. She felt the color, she experienced the color, and she could hear what the color was saying to her, so that there was this complete immersion in this. And I think that our physical form, I was just thinking about how our physical form is set up. We deal with wavelengths and frequencies. And if we're in spirit, I'm sure we can handle both with no problem without any outer devices. But we have eyes for the wavelengths and ears for the vibration or frequency that have been created. So they need to be there in our human framework, because the body still belongs to the animal world, and that's how the animal world is wired. And the brain then integrates these so that we can make sense of the world. But I can perceive a time or a place where people will be so dedicated to hearing and seeing color that you will be integrating everything. There are a few people in the world who were born with the ability to hear color and see sound. We can go there because the frequencies and the wavelengths are the same thing. There's a formula that you just translate them. It's the same thing. So I think coming down the pike, if people are really dedicated, that we will be getting much more information coming into us because of that dedication to want to go there, because that we don't need this devices in our outer world right now, because we could go inside. We can go to our inner world where we live in a sea of frequencies, and they belong to us. It's our spiritual nature, and the spiritual nature is all of that. So the communication from the universe occurs all the time through these frequencies. Are coming at us all the time. So light is coming into us, and sound is coming into us, and the messages that go with those are always coming in. And spirit knows exactly how to use these frequencies that exist in order to communicate with us. When one becomes attuned to frequencies and listening and feeling frequencies, whether they be sound, color, or both, you are in communication with the universal energies who do, because of the nature of the universal energies of love, have your best interest at heart. So this is a big topic, and I hope that you will look for a more formal presentation in the future on color and sound, and longer, so that we can make more sense out of the different pieces that belong in here. It will be on our YouTube channel. And in addition, I want to announce now that on September 21st at 7 p.m., we will be having an internationally recognized expert on sound who will do an hour-long program for us. Her name is Ruth Cunningham. You can look her up on the web. She will be receiving, I will be receiving more information from her before we create a flyer that will be given to you, and more announcements on this. But I hope you will save September 21st at 7 p.m. and come back to us then. And by the way, next time on our next chapel on September, I believe it's 9, we're going to have our world premiere of our memory book. The CCWH memory book is going to be shown then. It's just about finished. Not quite yet, but it will be finished for then. And I hope you will be able to tune in, and I hope you will enjoy it. It will be a bit of a longer program. And so you might figure in time of in terms of 7 to 8:30 that evening. So that's coming up, and I'm very excited about it, and I hope you will be excited too when you see it. But now it's time to relax and enjoy our meditation.
Hello and welcome. My name is Kelly Wilk, and today we'll be doing a meditation with the archangels. We'll begin by taking deep breaths in and out, relaxing ourselves mind and body and spirit. Throughout this meditation, we'll be taking deep breaths in and out, relaxed, easy, and free-flowing. From this place of relaxation, we bring our awareness to our connection to the earth, how it grounds us and stabilizes us. We feel the great positive magnet of Mother Earth drawing out any impurities, any negativity, any heaviness or darkness, pulling it away from ourselves, away from our physical selves, our mental selves, all of our subtle selves, and into the earth where it can be safely transmuted. We are also aware of our connection to the heavens, to the sky, to the light. We feel a powerful, almost electric connection to that light. We become aware of it, pulling us ever upward, towards light, towards grace, towards peace and contentment. We feel firmly anchored between these two poles of grounding and stability, of expansion and light. We safely encompass ourselves with some of this extra white light, creating a very safe, very strong shield all around ourselves. We know now that we are grounded, we are connected, we are protected. We are safe here in sacred space, able to do good spiritual work on many levels, whether it be healing, meditation, intuition, or anything else. For now, for today, we welcome the presence of the great angels. We picture ourselves in our sacred space, and we welcome the angelic presences of the many beings of light that are not only always around us, but that want to connect to us, to guide and help us. First, with great humility, we picture the awesome presence of the archangel known as Michael. We know that his presence is before us. We may only get a feeling, or we may see him very clearly. Perhaps we are only aware of a rustle of wings, or a powerful energy field, or a flash of blue light. But we know if we honestly call on his name and for his help, he can come, and he will. Right now, we ask Michael to be with us, to aid us in clearing any energies that are no longer beneficial for us. These may be forces working against us internally, externally, or very possibly both. We ask that he take his great sword of light and of truth and help us to cut any cords of darkness or attachment, regret or guilt, any other negative cords that are binding us, that are restricting our movements upwards and forwards. We feel the power of his great sword. It slices through the darkness, and we feel ourselves slowly and surely being freed. We allow any bonds, any cords to fall away down to the earth where they are dissolved and absorbed. At times, this archangel might cut a cord, and it may immediately begin to grow back. But please know that you can let it dissolve. You will be safe. You can be cleared in safety, in light, and for your higher good. Once this process is complete, we feel the gentle blue of Michael's light shining on us. We may feel a sensation of being enlightened, being made more light. We may feel a sensation of having wings wrapped around us. Or we may feel a different feeling entirely. Perhaps we see or hear or smell something that lets us know the process is completing, that we are now soaking in the light of this powerful angel, that we are being balanced and restored. We give eternal thanks to this great being for his aid. And as he leaves, we usher in the presence of another great being of light, that of Gabriel, the famous messenger angel. Gabriel comes closer and closer to us. Again, we may simply feel a presence. We may hear sounds like the whoosh of air or a heavenly trumpet. We may feel or see something. We give thanks to this great being of light for being here with us. Gabriel does indeed arrive with his trumpet, and he is able to attune us to the sounds of the divine, to messages directly from Spirit. We feel him taking his great trumpet of heavenly light and blowing a beautiful sound. It is clearing us, clearing our ears, clearing our minds, clearing all of our fields. So that we are able to better hear what is true, what is God-given, what is a message from the light. With His divine assistance, we are able to truly, truly understand if something we hear is in fact truth and right for us to hear and absorb now, or if it is somehow discordant and not aligned with the light, not being given for our highest and greatest good. And we may release those messages, release them with a blessing, and send them away from yourself. Instead, we are aware of the continued clearing of our ear chakras, of our minds, of our entire selves, as the sound of the trumpet goes on and on, fully clearing us, fully opening us to messages only from the divine, only for our own greater good, only for the greater good of all of those around us. When this process feels complete, we may feel wrapped up in a silvery or golden or simply white light. We may feel ourselves wrapped up in some heavenly music or in angel wings. And we'll wait here for a moment for any specific sign or message. That we are able to receive from Gabriel and from the light. Giving thanks to this great being, we hear or see or feel him depart and are aware now of another great celestial being coming forward to us to work with us now. This great being of light is Raphael, the Archangel of Healing. He comes forth in a brilliant green. We may feel certain sensations when he approaches. We may hear or see something particular, but we are aware that this great being is coming forward to do some work with us now. In great humility and with great gratitude, we welcome the Archangel Raphael. This angel has a great wand, a great caduceus, a healing wand with the very symbol of healing on the end, and he directs it now towards each and every one of us. Using the powerful healing of God, he pours forth green light on each of us, sending us healing, and most of all, sending us God's love. We open ourselves to this healing, and we may also at this time be given guidance on how best to affect our own healing, physical or otherwise, or perhaps how best to aid another close to us in healing. We open ourselves to these messages now. Once we feel this healing has been complete, we give thanks to Raphael. We are aware of his great presence leaving us, and we welcome the fourth and final archangel we will be working with. The great traveler Uriel comes forth. We are aware of his heavenly presence. We feel his gentle energies. We may see a particular color or notice a certain sound or scent that alerts us to his presence. But we know he is here now. This great angel helps us focus our light in the way that is most helpful for us to move forward with our own divine plan now. You see, he holds up a great bow and arrow. As he holds it up, he notches the arrow. He looks at a target before us. He is showing us the way. He is showing us what our next focus should be. He is guiding us on what steps to take next so that we can achieve our next divine goal, so that we can hit the mark. Allow him to guide you, to offer you some insight, some focus on what the best next steps would be. Once you feel this message has been delivered, we give thanks. We give thanks to the mighty being that is Uriel. We give thanks to the archangels and the many other beings in the angelic realm that are always helping us, that are always helping all of Earth. We give thanks to them, and we rest in our place of peace, in our place of light, in our place of healing and meditation. Thank you.
Well, I hope you've been able to find our website at CCWH.com. And when you're there, you'll find the drop-down menu, and perhaps you would like to go to that page and join us, be a member. Our affirmations are on that page, on that drop-down menu as well. So, and if you want to put somebody in for prayers for their well-being, we have a form there that you can fill out, or you can just send me a message at pastor@ccwh.com. And we appreciate any donations you care to give us. We do have some expenses, even though we are online, to keep an organization together. I appreciate anything you might be able to share with us, and we will put that to good use. And don't forget to like us on Facebook. It seems to make a difference somewhere. Thank you.